This is the first time I've ever actually brought a guest in on the podcast, so it's a little bit choppy. The introduction to the person being packaged is not there because I'm unprofessional, but without further ado, let's get into it. Sup, cunts? I do that. I do that with my mate every time he wants to record gameplay.
You just jump.
So yeah, I'm obviously here with Package, and we just want to go over the event. So obviously, Call of the Gods, you put a lot of effort into it, a lot of backstory and everything, and I sucked at taking part in the main story. I'm more of a side quest guy, so there were things that I actually missed, and I wish I got involved with, but yeah, some of it was just going over my head. So I want to know the sorts of things that you saw that you were happy with and followed the story that I 100% missed out on because I was too busy building a camp. So what was the main story that you put forward?
The main story was there's three powerful beings who were contending for, and sorry, to preface, it wasn't so much the story I put forward. Vari, she wrote pretty much the whole thing and wrote a lot of the detailed ins and outs of the little side quests that fed into it.
Yeah.
I think like my contribution was pretty minor, but yeah, it was really Vari to thank for that. But yeah, so the story that was key to the event was three powerful beings who were the guides. They were guiding their followers to sort of choose a new guardian since the previous event where one of the key NPCs had been killed by the players.
Okay.
And so
I missed that as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, the idea was like there's a power vacuum that needed to be filled, and so they have now filled it by backing a certain guide, doing different tasks for them, and then accruing sort of god favor and proving that they're the most become the new guardian.
So that was the Bountiful, the Wise, and the Undying.
Yes. Yeah.
So
the Wise is the new guardian.
Okay.
Yeah, Doran the Wise.
I did actually miss that, and I realised after I left the event that I didn't actually know who won. Sort of.
Fair enough.
So the Bountiful got eliminated pretty much straight away.
Well, sort of. Like she was in contention for a bit, and then there was like a bit of back and forth between her and the Undying.
It did look pretty even.
Yeah.
Like when they were holding up, because they did the little jar thing.
Yeah, the way at the end.
Yeah. And I was looking at that and I'm like, I don't know if this is like rigged to look that way or
no. There was actually like a steady measure per score.
Okay, so, I like that because I thought it was sort of rigged. I wasn't sure how much the players actually influence that, so it's good to hear.
100%. All the score that
Okay.
you see in the jars, that was all like what the players achieved for their guide. So their guide's like, I need this thing done. It will accrue god favor. The more god favor I have, the more likely I am to become the guardian. And then eventually the top two in their favor would duke it out.
All right. Well, I'm happy people aren't like me and actually took part in that, because it would have been a weird event if no one voted and put all their points into it. So that's cool. So with the story, obviously I missed a lot of it. Is there any sort of quests that you were a part of and you saw that you thought went flawlessly and you were really happy with, or as flawless as you can get with LARP?
Yeah, as flawless as you can get. I think the one I was most happy with was one I didn't even see. I just saw photos and video of afterwards, where we had players would they'd be impaired in some way, so they weren't allowed to use their hands, or they weren't allowed to speak, or they couldn't see, and it would be split between someone who was directing them and then a group of players who had to like make a model. And so the guides would take their followers out and they'd have to make a plasticine replica of a model, right?
Oh,
so there was,
I saw those.
Yeah, and they had them at the church afterwards. Yeah. And so it was basically, the best one was like the guys who were blindfolded and they were given different colors each.
Awesome.
There's one person, they couldn't do it for them, so they had to direct the others who couldn't see what they were working with. That was one example. There was a few variations on.
Oh, but, I saw those sitting there, and I was confused. I thought the kids had made them. Yeah, like some of them just looked absolutely awful.
But there were I think the one that won was actually pretty good, given that like they were blindfolded, like literally blindfolded, and they had to follow, verbal cues without any visual frame of reference.
Okay.
They only had tactile frame of reference.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully they get the photos out. I know Hannah took a lot of photos, and I can't wait to see those because she came around the camp. So
the refs were taking bad
awesome,
phone photos as well. So there'll be a few of those still to come.
Sweet.
I know I've still got to upload mine.
All right.
Yeah, just been flat out lately.
I took some videos, and I will probably put them in the background, or I'll just make a separate video as well.
Yeah.
But I think the only quest that I took part of, because I was pretty much by myself for the first 1 or 2 days, and I was making friends with certain people. Like I met Finn there, and that was awesome. But I got approached by the Naughty Boys and
The gang in town. Yeah.
Yeah, so I eventually became a local street gang member, and there was a section where we were told to go and sort of intercept people that were delivering something, and I didn't even ask questions. I had no idea why I was doing it. I was just told, do this is your job, and I'm like, okay. So
wait, was that by the other Naughty Boys, or was that the gang boss? Was this after you were inducted?
So this is the one that got me inducted.
Okay.
So I was just a prospect hang around.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was hanging out when they told me to go and intercept, and we were going to ambush the guys delivering this thing, and I had no idea what it was. So I'm like, all right, I'll go get my shield. I went and got my shield, and on the way back, the Rangers camp was on my way. So I walked straight past them, and I can't remember his name, and I suck at it, and I think I spoke about it in the last podcast, but they asked me to protect them, so I became essentially the man on the inside.
Yes.
I think that's the only quest that I actually took part in that was main story quest, except for the parts where I was deliberately going out of my way to fuck people around and like barricade towns and things like that. So I think that was the only quest, and I had no idea what those lanterns actually did. So what were they all about?
So the lanterns, they played a role sort of in two main quest lines between two of the guides. But at that point, it was basically, I think they'd had all day or since the previous evening to find and control these lanterns and keep them secure until a certain time, which was the evening bell. Okay. And when the evening bell rang, they had to have them at a particular altar that was dedicated to whichever guide, and that would give that guide god favor.
Okay.
So there was a certain amount, I think there was like, scoop of the god favor or whatever per lantern. Yeah. So the more lanterns, the more god favor.
Okay,
yeah.
so
that's oversimplifying it. And then there was another one the next night where it was, they were in strategic locations. You had to have them either on or off depending on which guide. So if they were off, I think the Undying got god favor, and if they were on, the Wise got god favor. But it depended which guide it was.
Well, that was part of that little quest that I got involved in. I saw them lining up the lanterns, but then they were all talking amongst themselves, and then I was just bored, and I'm like, let's go and attack people in town because we heard there was going to be people. So I get distracted very easily at LARPs with trying to cause chaos.
There's a lot going
so
on.
I miss things, and I hate it, but I also enjoy it. So it's one of those things. Is there anything that you knew was meant to play out and you feel didn't play out the way you wanted it to, or just didn't play out at all?
The opening ceremony. So we had to delay that because it absolutely bucketed down the first 2 days.
Yeah, I had to smoke my boots.
Yeah. I think a lot of us would dry. Like my boots didn't dry out until like the Friday afternoon or something.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
But yeah, that was the sort of the disappointing thing, because we had planned that the opening ceremony would happen. There sort of a few soft things happening in the evening on that first evening. But I think like the players were pretty understanding, that it had still been, I think it was still soft, like gently raining at that point.
Yeah.
And it had been raining the whole day that players were there setting up pretty much,
except
for that little interval at like lunchtime. Yeah. Well, on our setup day the day before, heavy rain all day. It absolutely sucked.
I think I came in and I was set up by probably about 3 o'clock, and then it started bucketing down. I just went to bed. Yeah. Like I slept for the rest of the day.
It was pretty rough. And so we had to like rush finishing setting up on the Wednesday, plus then we swapped the leaders briefing, which we sort of made into a public briefing with the opening ceremony. Yeah. So I mean, it was all right. Like it worked out in the end. The opening ceremony, it's funny, I've never actually seen it. I only sort of saw this one because I was still running around setting up the one last year. Last year in 2019 before COVID.
Yeah.
I was still running around setting stuff up as well, so I didn't actually see that one either. Like, I didn't see the first one at all. Apparently, everyone was like, "Oh, it looked really good." So I was a bit devastated that 2 events in, I still haven't seen our opening ceremonies.
Well, this one, I think I said in the last podcast as well, is I wish there was a little bit more of a script that the guides followed, because some of it sort of came off like they were making it up on the spot, and the nerves sort of kicked in. So I think
there's a bit of a script that they had, and we allowed a certain amount of ad libbing. This is throughout the whole event, but also for probably the opening ceremony, because you can't sort of lock these things in, because if you lock them in and it's too scripted, then you're basically doing a performance, and it can't necessarily be interactive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
but maybe nerves got to him, because it was the first part of the event.
Yeah, it was. But finally everyone's in character. Yeah, let's get going.
But I think that even if there was nerves, throughout the week, our 3 guides, they did an amazing job.
Yeah, no, I can't fault them for anything. The Wise definitely was my favorite to interact with. The Bountiful in character, I just hate the clean stuff. Yeah. So obviously she irked me. And the Undying, I never really actually got to sort of interact with her at all. She walked past me, and that's probably as far as I got. Yeah. But then you've got the Blood Priestess. Obviously, she's not one of the main 3.
She's already a guardian, so she's the demigod level.
So I went in going, okay, well, that's the one I'm going to do everything for, and obviously couldn't really do too much on that side. So I started leaving it. I don't even know if she noticed, but every time I found a bone in the wild, I would leave it for her.
Oh, okay.
So she probably walked away with an extra 5 or 6 bones.
Cool.
I found a wombat spine, and I was going to leave that, but it was pretty manky, so I don't want to... that's probably a bit invasive to leave blood and
I wonder, because we were talking, there was a spine piece, I don't know if it was a kangaroo spine piece or whatever.
Kangaroo.
Yeah, and it had a bit of green on either end. Was that you?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because we found that at death when we were packing up, or the day before we finished. I was like, look at this,
I was going to leave some of my skulls there, but 100% I would have forgotten them. There's still stuff that I need to get back from people that I forgot that I gave them.
I forgot to bring your
axe
as well.
I'm missing
I was driving here and I was like, I've still got your axe. So
I was hoping that you were going to take public transport, so you're just sitting there with an axe on the train. So going forward in the next events, what would be something that you would really want to implement into either the world or the game itself?
I want to put more in-game services in, so that way we can get the in-game economy working a bit better. One of the things I kept whinging about, I think all the major NPCs and GMs over the week got sick of me saying talking about the velocity of money. Where it's basically I was like, the velocity of money's hit 0 again. No one's spending, no one's trading, nothing.
Yeah, we tried.
Money wasn't moving. Yeah, and and that was part of the point of having the gang, was to sort of leverage and forcibly take at certain points, either forcibly or voluntarily, but we could be like, mug that guy, we know he's got a bunch of silver or copper, and then that way we get some back, and we could recirculate it, because you just keep injecting money into an economy, you can cook it, right? There's a certain amount you should keep building it up by. The problem is there's only so many in-game services that either players were offering or that we could offer, because there's limitations to that sort of thing. Plus, those real-world limitations are amplified when you're trying to reflect a medieval society and economy, or medieval tech level. And that productivity level needs to be reflected as well. So you can't be operating in the billions, because the billions might exist globally at that sort of tech level.
Oh, it'd tank it.
Yeah, it would tank it. There'd be too much money floating around. And it makes it pointless.
Yeah, to lose all value. Yeah, so I liked that it was scarce.
Yeah.
But
the problem is it was a bit too scarce. And one of the things we didn't realize is that there was some people who didn't come to the event who apparently accumulated a bunch of money in the previous event. And that's where a bunch of our money was sitting.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the Rangers were talking to us about this on the pack-up day. and they were saying that they had a bunch of their house's money that they weren't able to get hold of before the event to bring. So yeah, it's one of the things I suppose we need to work on for the next event, and that's one of the things that I'm going to work on personally, is making sure that there's in-game services that keep the flow of money. Flow of money is probably a better, layman's term, but flow of money, velocity of money. Because if you keep it moving, it will behave like a regular economy, or behave more like a regular economy.
Because I've had T-Bone come up with the idea of having an item that would influence the game, but it costs X amount of money. So I like that idea, but the issue is pay to win, everyone hates.
Yeah, exactly.
And also,
because then they're mugging each other for in-game coin, and then they go and spend it to win the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you run the risk of, when you do loot someone, they've been saving up for this laser beam.
Yep.
They don't give you the coin, and I feel like the honor system comes into play more than it people actually play by it. Like, so if I've got coin and you kill me, 100% I'm giving you every coin I've got.
Yeah, sure.
And that's one way that I
rifle through your dead pockets.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not like I'm keystering all the copper that I've got. So when I got killed in town after we tried to barricade it, I think it was 3 copper and a silver on me, and I gave all of that away.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the game.
And then when I was walking away, I found a silver on the ground, so I'm like, okay, I made some money back. But I did like the Naughty Boys playing that role of trying to get money in so we could then redistribute it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we nailed it when it came to how to do it, like get it back into the community.
Yeah, it was sort of hard because the only times I think people were sort of working against the game was when you guys took over town, which was brilliant. When it
was good fun.
Two Fingers ran out, was like, is now the time we can barricade? I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, it was a bit more casual. I'm like, yeah, sometime this afternoon. He ran off, and that was it. They were barricading town, and like you and T-Bone walk around, with their spare guns, being
so much fun.
2 copper to come in,
T-Bone's 100% in on guns now.
Okay.
Before then, he was like stupid. They're just like bows, boring.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got his hand on a cannon, he was like, yep, all right, I'm in on that. So I think the Bulls are probably going to start manufacturing guns in the not too distant future. One of the ideas that we came up with to recirculate money as well, along the line of businesses, is just firing range and axe throwing range.
Okay.
So obviously, axe throwing requires more safety involved.
Sure.
Firing range, not so much. But just something simple like that, like you pay just 1 copper and you might be able to get 2 people in rather than 1 copper per person, because I felt like people were less likely to give up copper if it only benefited them. Yeah,
I think that's because of the scarcity. So it increased the value, like the scarcity of the money increased the value. They're like, well, we need to get more for this copper.
Yeah.
So
that was one idea that I had. Now we've discussed obviously the slums, and a lot of people won't know what we're talking about. But
it's something we're looking at for the next
town. So what?
A dodgy area.
What are you willing to give up at the moment, idea-wise, for the slums?
We'll have a dodgy area that's quartered off, and we'll have some interesting sort of nefarious activities going on in there.
Alright,
Steve Beattie's shop that some people would have noticed that was attached to the tavern will be back, but we'll probably move that into the dodgy area of town, or adjacent to the dodgy area of town.
That's weird. He's a reputable businessman, fully legitimate. No, I loved Steve Beattie's. I personally uncovered certain sections of that had its own little story, which I loved.
He felt so bad too, because like a couple of the kids that were on the non-combatant / child tickets kept coming up, like they do whatever they did. They get some copper and they'd be like, "Can I buy this?" And he's like, "Oh no, that's mine," or "That's for a friend," whatever he was doing. And they'd like run away and they'd go and get some more, and they'd be like, "I've got 8 copper, I'll give you 8." And then he had to say, "No, it's 2 copper," and they'd be like, "Well, I'll give you 2 copper then because I've got 8." And like the poor kids couldn't like sort of wrap their head around it.
Well, they should have followed the story as well. Have a little bunch of hoodlums. So that was actually my favorite. That for me saved the event, like, because I do everything alone and I sort of isolate myself, and it's catch-22. Like, I get bored when I finish building my camp, and the naughty boys sort of recruiting me.
Yeah. And
inspired me
stuff
to
do.
Yeah, get into the game a little bit more. I tried to do as many things as I could, but I
mean, I think we all do. Like, it doesn't matter what LARP event you go to, you can't get to everything.
Yeah, exactly. So I took part in I think it was the Bountiful's games where she had the shoe tossing thing where you flick it over your ass, and I'm like, okay, well, that was the last event she was holding, and that was the most embarrassing, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that one. So I tried to get involved with a few more things, but the naughty boys, I think, if they're in the slums running different little businesses, if we can come up with different ideas that'll make people like want to spend the money in the slums, you could have...
It's got to be entertainment, I think.
And I think the way that it has to play out is all the money that goes into the slums, bar a couple of coins here and there, have to just get recirculated.
Yeah, and that was the point. Yeah, that was the point of the gang. So basically, anything that they might have robbed off someone, or like cheated someone out of, like however, dodgy card tricks or whatever. The point was that it was us being able to take money out, because the way anyone who controls an economy in the real world can generally get it through different their revenue sources are things like taxation. You can't really have an out-of-game taxation mechanic, right? Like, it doesn't work, and all you do is engender bad feelings in players. So you've got to have an in-game mechanism. So I know, I can't remember where this LARP is, but there's a LARP that has like like the patrol or something like that. They're basically like an in-character police, and they set up toll booths, and so you'd be walking down a road, and you've got to, like in medieval times, there would be toll booths. You got to pay the toll to get through this booth on the road. Otherwise, maybe you don't travel on the road, and then maybe bandits get you, and then they get the money out of you anyway, or they get more money out of you. So they're like, I think it's somewhere in Europe. I can't remember where that is, but there is a group that do that.
You need a proper choke point for something like that here, though, because I feel like we've done that before. The goat riders have held choke points like on the road. But if you say, give us 2 coppers to walk past, or give us 1 copper, or give us a friggin' gem, we'll take anything. Yeah. People will just say around. No and leave, or they'll go around.
And that's the difference. This LARP had like bandits, so if you tried to go around, right, you're off the protected road, the bandits would try and... I don't know how effective it was. This is just something that someone's relayed to me when I've been overseas before.
That's one of the...
That's one way to do it, and it was sort of the function of the gang was not necessarily the toll booth, except for when you guys took over town, but more the bandits in the wild, right? Their capacity to another way to get money out of the economy, and then once we got it, either have you guys get killed and move money from one person to another. So you rob this person A, but person B kills you, and they get your money, so it moves that money along. But the other way was then we can leave it. It's like item drops, like playing a random RPG, computer game. You go through and you're like, oh, kick this vase. Oh, look, money. Like, that's sort of the feel in some ways that we're partly aimed for.
When I started going to Exodus events, I went into it with the idea that it was pretty much going to be the same as Swordcraft. Like, everyone will sort of play the same, and that's true for the most part. But I feel like at Exodus, if I was to do something and you saw it, I betrayed a bunch of people, and they didn't kill me. And that was one thing that I noticed seems to be pretty much exclusive to Exodus. Like at Swordcraft, I would get killed all the time. Yeah. But at Exodus, I feel like people don't want to ruin other people's times, and because you have the permadeath sort of setup, I think people have that in their head, and they're like, oh, I don't want this guy to die.
Yeah, they've got to respect.
So they keep rezzing me.
Yeah, and like, weird. They've got they have this like innate like fear of having upset or disrespect someone, giving them a bad time.
I don't have that.
Taking away their character. And there's people like, if I was in that situation, if I was playing, like I'd just play, whatever, however recklessly, because I'd be like, if I die, I die. I'll roll up a new character. But that's not everyone's cup of tea. And so I get that. And it was very interesting when the first fights started happening. People are counting down, they're bleeding out. Players were initially like stopping their allies from hemorrhaging. but then they, whoever they'd been fighting, one or two would go off to death and be like, oh no, they've got to put their name in the book, and they were reminded. So it was after those first couple of fights on the first afternoon and the second morning, they were like holding each other and healing each other and being like, thanks for the fight. It was like pluralist warfare. It was like, so same time, same place, tomorrow morning. Like,
exactly, yeah. So
it was an interesting dynamic, that this sort of honor code developed where they would help each other. And I suppose, it's not something I've really seen at any LARP before.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. It's different.
Yeah,
and it requires different tools to work around that. I think it's sort of reflective of the out of character fear of losing one's character to permadeath, and then they sort of translate that. And I think, like, for the most part, people role playing it well. It's like, stop them from dying. It was like we'd hear the call, players yelling to each other, like, staunch those wounds, stop them bleeding out. So I think that was really interesting. Oh, jeez, sorry, kick the mic.
No. It's broken. It's $400.
I thought that was interesting.
I like that they were doing it, but I also don't like it because, you know me, I have more of a ruthless, chaotic style of play.
Yeah, I'm less chaotic, but still ruthless. Like I wouldn't. I wouldn't staunch their wounds, but I'm not saying
really
they're playing wrong. It's just
everyone's got their own style, but I found it really hard to find anyone that was like me. Like, I think the Grimm were more like me, but they never killed me, so I never got to find out. Yeah. The only battle I ever saw them in, they got pushed back.
Was this at
outside the road camp? So it was on the road, and the rogues were fighting them, and then I stepped in and I helped them as well because they were closer to me. So I was like, I can't be bothered getting on the other side.
The rogues.
Oh no, sorry, the Rangers.
Oh, Rangers. Was this at the Battle of Fort Beatty?
No, I don't think it was at Fort Beatty. It was like literally just outside of town, like.
Oh, okay.
As you start to walk down.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. Yep, sorry.
So the Grimm got pushed back, so I couldn't see if they were, like, obviously they've got skulls and they look evil.
They look really good. Yeah.
So whether or not they play like I do, where kill everyone, have no mercy sort of style, I want to know that, because I did find it hard to find people that are as douchey as me and will kill people and let them bleed out.
Yeah, it's their character style. I didn't see them staunching during the event, but that was generally because the fights that I got to in time to ref, they were generally the killed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if they were letting people bleed out or not.
If you
but it is but it is in their character because they're evil.
Exactly, and that's obviously that's.
I think that's
style.
A fair warning for like any players who pick fights with them at events from now on. Is like they'll just.
Good, yeah, that's what I want, because we've got the white bulls are very much like that. Like, we'll kill you and leave you.
Yeah. I shouldn't put words in their mouths too. Actually, I shouldn't say this is what they will do.
They will do it. They will, and I'll make them. Because if I see someone on my side staunching wounds, I will then attack my own side to stop them. Like, because to me it's disrespectful. I just put in the work to body bag this dude, and now you're fixing it. Like, so I'll start fights that way. So I came into the event, and I said it to my brother Nick. I'm going to go into this event and be nice to people.
Okay.
Because at Dark Winds, I was aggressive, trying to kill the baby and feed it to the lizard, attacking people on the road, robbing people.
Yeah.
And he felt that
Did you make it out of Dark Winds?
No.
You didn't get through the portal,
my character.
so you had to roll up a new character?
Yeah, so, I didn't use Dayro, luckily, that time.
Yeah.
This time I did use Dayro, because I'm like, it was 7 lives, wasn't it?
Yeah, at XFS you get 7 lives
so
on the
like,
Isle of Chaos.
If I get to 5, I'll just start being careful. But this time I was willing to roll the dice with Dayro, which I'll put 9 years into.
And I think that's the thing is, right, a lot of people have either ported a character across, or they've made a character and they're like, actually I really like this character.
Yeah, the emotional connection.
They're like, I only have X amount of lives. It's like playing old console games where you have a limited number of lives before you got to go back to a checkpoint or back to the start of the game. It changes your play style as opposed to like newer sort of especially like newer FPSs where it's like, you know, follow the game's tunnel, the story tunnel, but you can just die and res as many times, and the checkpoints are like, you know, really close together.
I think those styles have their pros and cons. Like, obviously, the permadeath thing gives you that fear, so you will be more cautious. You may not get into as many fights, but it will drive your role play to be more in depth, and you'll actually interact with
and I think that's what spawned the the gentleman's code of staunching wounds.
Yep.
So like, again, it's not bad. It's a genuine like consideration they have to make. Is like, you know, they will die here, and if you actually kill someone and they don't return and they perma-die, how does that affect your relationship with that other group? You know, and so I think there was a lot of considerations that just went into the idea of staunching their wounds, because it's uncharted territory that will complicate the relationships that players will have across group lines with each other, and groups will have with groups.
Exactly.
So I think that's something that they weren't ready to test yet. Like, they don't want to cause like all out war, and fair enough. Like, it's while there is like intended for there to be battle, I think they're still interested more in the adventure side of things.
Exactly, and that's one of the big pros for Exodus for me, is there is a lot of effort put into the story and having the players actually experience something. And I'll shit on Swordcraft every day with this, and I've done it to their face, I don't care. But a lot of their enjoyment comes from the players building the world. Yeah. So that's
which we're not trying to discourage either.
No. Like, you saw me, I build my own shit going on, and I have a good time. But I love the idea that you've actually got a storyline and people can interact with it and jump in and out and do it whenever they want. Yeah. But other LARPs obviously don't have that sort of thing. And I think that's more of a Euro-American sort of style, like the storytelling.
Maybe. I mean, I think there's, from what I know of the, I'll tell you when I get back from the US, because I'm going to go there later this year. But from what I know of like American LARP orgs, is like there's sort of a few different schools. There are and everyone just sort of goes, oh, Americans, buffers, pool noodles. What generally we do on a Friday night, Swordcraft or Exodus, that's buffer. Whether you like it or not, it's buffer. The only difference is we're using nicer looking pool noodles, right? Like, it's still, we're hitting each other with foam, and it's just for the biff of it. And the buffer, again, could be off, but from what I've read and understand, is there's a lot of like university clubs for LARP and buffer clubs, and they sort of get together and they have a fight, like Nerf clubs that have existed for 20 odd years now, where they sort of get together and they have a whack. But at the same time, in America, there is a strong story school. It's purely roleplay interactions and low combat. The Euro experience, I think, is more... This is in my experience of European LARPs, is generally attempting a blending of that. So you're trying to get them there to have a big fight over a strong story.
That's my preferred style. Like, I definitely would prefer that. Having GMs that actually will, even if it's like in the middle of an event and they say pause, this sort of thing.
Pause. You see a portal open or something.
Exactly. I kind of like that, because then if you relay that message on, and then the players can use their imagination and actually interact with it and adapt to different situations
without overstretching suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. But with other groups like Swordcraft, I felt like a lot of the times, if there was some sort of story thing going on, one group might be privy to it, and then the other one just has to sort of, what's happening? And if they don't believe it, then you get that conflict. Is this
when groups groups are bringing their element to the story?
Yeah, so if you've got the goat riders coming in and they're saying that they're trying to do some sort of quest, and say, like the idea of a portal is a big one. So if the goat riders see a doorway and they say that's a portal, another group could come in and see that and that's a doorway, and they just use it. So I like the idea that GMs can influence the game that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say it's more than likely exclusively an issue with this LARP or that LARP, where you've got multiple groups in any LARP. that have different lore and obviously different people. They're going to develop different conceptions about what they imagine, what they suspend their disbelief towards, or do, and the other group do or don't.
Yeah.
Might run into that conflict that you said. I think that's just sort of a natural evolution.
Well,
Having a central, and there's a couple of theories around how to fix this, and one of them is to have like a central canon, which is this is the way of the world. It exists in this way.
Yep.
These things exist in these states, and it's defined. The other way is to have a central focus, so it doesn't matter their interpretations. They're all looking at the one thing and look at it along whatever vantage point you're coming from. You're all looking into the one point.
Yeah,
I think without deliberately aiming for it, Exodus sort of falls into that latter category where it's rather than defining a specific world. So we have like a world canon. There is a world narrative, but it's encouraged that different groups bring their specific flavors and stuff to the world within a few stipulations. So that way you can end up with clear like regional differences. You know, the group lives here this way. But when we go to things like Exafest and Dark Winds, however their groups behave or think about the world, they're looking in at a central story, and that's the central focal point that moves along. And everybody's looking along at that together. So I think that's sort of naturally the way Exodus sort of evolved over its few events that we've run.
Different groups have different character traits and beliefs and everything, I think, is a big part of it. Like, obviously, the White Bulls, like, we don't use magic where we come from. So every time I see people using magic, I think it's either just a trick or something like that. So I don't believe in anything. So I'm very...
The White Bulls believe in gods, though?
Yeah. So,
okay, yeah,
so
that's...
I've got the three gods, and I've got... I had a Bible. I've got... front page of it over there, but I wrote up
Bible.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
The Book of Lao. It was like 15 pages long, and it was written in my language.
Yeah.
It looked the part. It was amazing, but I've lost it. And people say that someone threw it in a fire. Someone's either stolen it. I don't know. But we don't believe in magic. If you do magic in front of us, we think you're just doing tricks, and we're really rude to people that use magic.
Yep.
So Marianne was the first one. I call her Magic Hag, because her character was using magic, and
in the hell until she's
so I feel offended by someone doing these tricks because I think they're trying to trick me. So,
that's a good one. Like, I don't believe in magic, but I do believe in gods. That's interesting.
So I've built,
because I think a lot of
full thing
groups at Exodus justify their magic as divine rather than arcane. You know, the gods gave us this power, because one of the emphasized things is you can see and interact with gods in different parts of this world. I mean, even on Eos, there are demigod guardians, right? You know, so that's a cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's an interesting philosophy. Yeah, like gods are real, magic's not. I love that.
We treat everyone like, I've built it off of the way I play, is the world that I come from. If you follow a god and you came to our world and you lived there, we put you in a place called Priest's Hold. And it's just a tower in the middle of a lake, and it's like a prison for religious people, and we convert you to our religion. So when people come up with different religions and they're talking to me, my character will be more aggressive towards you.
Okay.
And if you use magic, I'll be more aggressive towards you. But if you're just like rough, that's why like the Naughty Boys fit perfect for me, because they weren't preaching or anything like that. I could just sort of blended in perfect.
Faith, I think faith wasn't an element that we'd worked in. Like, it was sort of when I set up the gang in town, and it was basically like, I'll let you guys run around, do what you want, but I will come and like call on them when I need you to carry something or go and do something or go stir something. And they're like, yeah, cool. But I was like, otherwise, free play as a gang, cheap ticket. And now that you're inducted, you know, like it'll, you know, if you stick with it, it'll be similar rules. Yeah, and hopefully that'll be, you know, that'll help it grow too.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the faith aspect in that respect would probably be individual. Like, so, you know, you could have, I don't know, completely different religions within the gang. But I think then you can end up with a sort of, you know, a mafia thing. Is like, hey, doesn't matter what you believe in us. You know, you're one of the family now.
So that's where me and T-Bone came up with the idea. We watched the movie Gangs of New York ages ago.
That was one of the inspirations behind the Naughty Boys.
I
Unfortunately, I think they're a bit more comical than...
Yeah, I literally watched it
Bill the
again
Butcher.
today. I finished it today.
Yeah.
But
Have you seen it before?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
ages
Yeah, it's really good.
So we came up with the idea of having people be able to form little gangs or little cliques within the slums, and then that would also help people like maybe make a little business in there.
Yeah.
And then copper's going to come in, copper's going to go out, and it will be a way to sort of bounce it around the slums. And I think your idea of building the slums gives a lot of opportunity for coin to move. So if we can get rival gangs, the way I see it, and only way I can picture it is like sort of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, you know, when the ballers take...
I haven't played it for a long time, but yes, keep going.
They take this territory, you can go and take it back.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So what I would love to do is, say the Rangers come in and they build a herbalist or something in the slums, who knows, whatever. Obviously a dodgy version. So opium den sort of thing. Yeah. But if they
got a legitimate name, but a nefarious purpose.
Exactly, yeah. So the slums we do want to keep pretty dark and dingy. But the White Bulls could then come in and take that business. So then everyone that works in that business gets kicked out and we run the business.
Okay,
so
like muscle in.
Exactly. So you start taking different buildings and then it'll just eventually just be people.
And if you're not muscle in, maybe you come in and being like, you work for us now and like extort them. So like you... we kind of have that with the Outpost game already, but that's on I think on a much more macro scale because like we've got Arthur's Outposts like out in the wilderness, and people have to score those, you know, by putting their different flag up. So that's and we did an extended version of that because we had the champions who worked for the guides. So the champions had specific outposts this time as well. So it would basically be an extension of the Outpost or a reduced extension, like a micro extension, if that makes sense, because it'd be smaller.
Shrinkage,
yeah. It's the same concept, but at a more localized scale, I suppose. But yeah,
I think we came up with
put
the
your
idea,
flag up on a business, and then that gang controls that business.
So all money moving through it then goes to that gang.
Yeah.
So the way I sort of saw it was, if you've got multiple businesses, eventually it'll get to the point where maybe one army or one group will take over every business, and then you're allowed to attack their headquarters. So it will be a game within the game. So if you've got the main game playing out during the day, at night the slums will be more of a bustling sort of spot. So, because I think at Exofest this time, the tavern should have been more populated, but people were holding their events separate from it. Yeah. And I think that sort of hurt when we go to the tavern and there's just nothing going on. So if you can get the slums, and during the day there's the regular tavern, and then in the slums at night there's a dirty version.
Tavern, yeah.
So I think that'd be good, because then you've got gambling and all that sort of stuff. And then the other thing that I thought would be a fun idea is just have police raids every now and then.
Do you know much about Conquest of Mythodea?
Not really, no.
They have a similar thing at Conquest of Mythodea. There's several gangs in town that run around and sort of go against each other, but at the same time there's two competing police forces. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah. So
I was in a nefarious establishment at one of the a Conquest of Mythodea in 2019, and there was a police raid on the last night. So the the Stadwatch burst in, and they're arresting people who ran the business and that, and like it was so good. It got real sus all of a sudden. You're watching them go around. They're having whispered conversations, not with each other, which they've been doing all week. They started having them with like clientele, and it was people you recognized even if you didn't know. It's like talking to people, and then they came up to me as well, and because I'd in character gotten to know a couple of the characters that run this place. They're like, you're a good friend to us, and here's some money to keep you safe in case someone tries to mug you on the road or you have trouble with the police. So he put 7 like Mythodea silver in my hand. I was like, bloody hell, And then he's like, and I was like, why? And he's like, because we've had a tip off, the Stadwatch are about to raid. And then he finishes talking to me, he turns, he's going over to someone else, and then that was it. The sides of the tent ripped open, the Stadwatch burst in, they've got like their like foam truncheons and that, and they're like and they're like pretending to like whack people.
Yeah.
A couple of the people who run them, like it was obviously all set up.
Yeah.
But the people who'd been tipped off had already started, like me and a few others, we'd already started to move towards a couple of like exits, like secret exits, and there was like tunnels like we had to like crawl through to get out, and it was really cool. And so we ran out through like little tunnels and then down back alleys in the town and that to escape, as the stud watcher arresting the guys that ran it and a couple of players that just didn't know, like, and so awesome. It was really good. Yeah, well, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and there's a raid on this place. It was amazing.
That'd be a great way to get the economy moving as well, is have regular raids of different businesses not announced, and then pretty much everyone in that business has to hand over their copper, and then that can get recirculated.
Yeah.
So you're playing at your own risk. To go in the slums, obviously you higher risk of getting mugged, higher risk of cops taking it, higher risk of people taking you and hostage, and
it's kind of what I mean. Like, I don't know about the hostage thing, but everything else, like that's pretty much what Mythodea is doing with their town. And Mythodea has a really great town. Yeah.
I don't like looking at it because then it makes me sad that I am not there. Like it's like Bicco. Like I hate looking at it. I'm like, don't.
I want to go.
I get really jealous. Yeah. So you've been over there. Which one?
Drakenfest and Mythodea.
Drakenfest and Mythodea. Which one do you like more?
As a festival, I like Drakenfest more. I enjoyed the Mythodea town more, but I think that's only because I've never really been involved in the town stuff at Drakenfest. I've been involved in my own camp stuff too much.
Are they more tent towns or are they established buildings? I know Bicco has established.
Bicco's got established buildings. No, so both of them are tent towns, but they do it in a way where Mythodea's is bigger and there's a lot more tents, but they do things like flat pack walls, right? So like at Exofest, and this is one of the things that inspired at Exofest, those huts, we had a few huts in town. Similar to that, not as heavy duty. Like they didn't they didn't use as like bigger blocks of wood as what we did. They're generally doing it out of like structural 2x4 and things. Or in a couple of cases I saw at Mythodea, they actually make like full wooden walls and it all packs flat and then they set it up. And it looks really cool. The Stud Watch have got some really great buildings like that. So there's a bit of that. So there are tents and there are these flat pack buildings, and it's sort of the same at both. The Mythodea town's probably or Drakenfest's town, I'd say, is probably somewhere between, like it's probably about 40% the size of the town at Mythodea. And like I think it's just Mythodea is I think it's a bigger game. I can't remember. So because it's a bigger game, they can obviously go bigger. And their location means that they've got more space to play. But the town at Drakenfest is still like it's just as lively, and because they've only got a very limited space, Drakenfest is much more limited space. The town can feel really packed sometimes at Drakenfest, like you're trying to move through and it's like sardines. So it feels, like you see that cliche like in movies set in medieval or fantasy places, like, oh, excuse me, sorry, oh, the fishmonger, like it's.
If we could get pickpockets, like that would be so much.
Yeah, the difficulty is like some people would have to opt in for something like a pickpocket game, and then you would have to have like a specific pouch that can be identified as a pouch that can be picked by a pickpocket. Like,
I was even thinking like you could have a ribbon on your belt and it has your name on it, and if someone was to steal that, they can come to you later and you've got set things you can steal. That's a good like that's a tag thing that kids play. You put your jumper or like a ribbon or whatever in the back of your pants, and you have to try and snatch them off each other. It's not a bad system. So get paid for every idea you take. But pickpockets would be a fun little addition. Obviously, in the slums, that will play a big part. With the story as a whole, I
can't commit to any of this either.
Oh, you don't.
Like I'm happy to shoot the shit on this, but I can't be like set in stone.
To be fair, a lot of this I can pretty much do myself, and I'll advertise it myself if I have to. It doesn't bother me. Do you have a goal for the story going forward? Is it going to be connected to what's just happened? things like that.
One of the things that Vari and I are pretty adamant on is like continuity of like
camera.
is like a bit of an ongoing continuity of story. So we do plan for the story of this event to inform upcoming events. I'm not gonna say what they are.
Yeah, obviously.
Don't want to do spoilers. Obviously, one of the
things might change.
Things might change, but one of the biggest things, and this was entirely player driven, is that we didn't think they'd want this, like, because we thought Dark Winds was pretty like rough and like outside of game it was pretty rough, and then inside of game it was rough as well. So we didn't think they'd want to, but the players are like, nah, let's go back, and let's get some of our own back. So they've got their agenda, and we're like, okay, well, if that's the game you want to play, they want to go back to the spiders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
right.
that's.
Well, that'd be interesting, because then some of the people that got left behind might be able to be rescued.
I think that's their plan. I think that's
cool.
their plan.
Okay.
Yeah. So
there's probably someone that left like their warband leader there. They have to like.
I think did the Rangers, because Jay. They sung a song. Were you at Night of the? You were at Night of the Muses. Yeah. Jay got up and sung that song, and everyone sing along and stuff.
That was really good. Like
they made an amazing song.
It went forever. I will say that,
but it was like a medieval ballad song in that, because like those, like if you've heard like medieval ballad songs, they go for 5 or 6 minutes, right? It's not like a modern pop song.
T-Bone was sitting there, and obviously T-Bone wasn't at Dark Wind, so that whole thing to him was just like, why are they still going? Please stop. Please stop.
Yeah, really?
But to me, I was like, please cut it short up. But then I was listening to it, and I'm like, oh, actually, I remember that.
Yeah,
I know that.
I was there for that.
It was interesting to sort of have people that are willing to put that much effort in.
Yeah, like I'm really grateful, not only to Jay, but all the players who like came up with songs and stories and stuff that centered around the world.
Yeah.
And the Night of the Muses, I think, is really good for that, because it's public in game. It means it's across the group line, so everybody sort of comes there and assumes that like, oh, it's a time of peace. We're here to like exchange, entertainment with each other. So you sort of get a look at the different conceptions of culture for different houses at Exodus.
Yeah, it's like the tavern. Like, obviously, you don't go in the tavern and start a sword fight, but you might have a brawl.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So I like that people respected that night. That was a really fun night, even though like we were trying our best to gamble and give away money.
The coin bouncing game.
Like I was betting people to sit down and give me 2 copper, and I was going to bet. I think it was 2 silver and 5 copper. Like throwing money away, but I couldn't lose, and I got really good at it. And then there was a point where T-Bone was actually playing and not even looking and bouncing the coin, deliberately throwing the game, and he still won. So we hadn't figured out exactly how to make it. Was the game actually
rigged, or do you know?
No,
what I say? Like,
I've told people it 100% wasn't rigged.
Okay.
I had an argument on the memes page with what's his face, but people weren't sitting down because they assumed that we rigged it, because we look shady as fuck.
Yeah, I assumed you rigged it. Yeah,
we came up with.
I said to Vari, I was like, have you got any copper on you? I was meant to be reffing. I'm like, I want to take 5 minutes. I want to play the coin game. Like, I want to lose. Like, I thought it was rigged.
You would have lost if you played me, and T-Bone was pretty good. But we realized like we're too good at it. We need Nick to step in, so my brother could come in, and my brother sucks balls at it.
Yeah.
So we thought that was how we were going to get the money moving, is if people sat down and played my brother.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no one wanted to sit down, so I'm like, all right, I'll bet just stupid amounts of money that I'm going to win.
Down. Yeah.
And then I would start trying to throw games, but still, no one would sit down at that point. But we did come up with like 4 or 5 different ways to sort of rig it, but then also make it obvious enough where they would notice that
it's rigged. Yeah.
So then they would attack us. So and then if they kill us,
they'd be like, "You cheated me."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of them was T-Bone came up with it.
That classic, like, these are loaded dice, and they pull a knife on you.
We wanted you to flip the board and everything.
Yeah.
T-Bone came up with one where he moves both hands and he bounces the coin with one, but he's got a coin in the other one. He just hits the table. So he makes the sound, and then he just drops the other one.
So very clearly, So
it's super obvious if you're looking at his hands, but the idea behind it was T-Bone would get your attention to look him in the eye, and then he would do it like that. So
someone else, like their friend next to him, be like, "Hey, he just cheated." Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
So we had a few ways.
And then they
to
flip
rig
the
it.
table and they're like, give us our money, you cheats. Yeah. Okay.
But honestly, we never cheated anyone. Like we wanted to. But
well, now you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
but you know what's gonna happen? Because if people watch this, now they're gonna be like, oh, it wasn't rigged. I'm gonna go make some money. Now you've got to rig it so you can control whether you win or lose.
If I want to win, I'll win. I'm really good at the fucking game. So we're going to come up with a more professional board because obviously that was just a cheese cutter board.
It looked like a chopping board.
It literally was. We tried to saw the handle off and then T-Bone got bored, so he just kicked it, and that's why there was a chunk missing. So we had the shit side versus the good side. So whoever starts on the broken side, they go first. So we had a system for it, but I will make a more professional one because I used to have one, but I've killed so many people doing it as a drinking game that a lot of the people coming in now playing against me, it's like stepping in with John Jones, like I'm gonna smash you. So we need to get the idea we came up with is why not get people to play each other, because then
players to play each other.
It was so stupid why we didn't think of that at the event. It was like one of the dumbest things we've ever done.
Because then if there was a way you could rig it, you could like rig it for one player. Yeah. And maybe that player doesn't know that they're playing the rigged side. I don't know how and then they're like, what? I didn't cheat. And they're having an honest reaction thinking they haven't cheated, but the other person has seen that it's rigged.
The easiest way to do it is different weights for coins. So different materials. But then the problem is the sound will be different. So we're trying to figure it out. So T-Bone, obviously, he gets access to all the metal and the choppers and everything. So he'll try and figure it out. But yeah, that's one thing that we really wanted people to take part in. That was like a big part of bull culture, because I've been playing that game for 5 or 6 years now. Yeah. And just no one wanted to step in with us, which kind of sucked. And then we shot ourselves in the foot. We were giving away free steak stew, but we put it next to the game, and then no one wanted to sit down with us, so the steak stew just went cold.
Oh no, that's no good. If I had known you were giving it away, I would have.
We're trying to give the coin away. No one's took it, but we did have a good night. We enjoyed Night of the Muses. I really appreciated. I've forgotten her name. Was it Leah, the Nord?
Oh yes, yep.
So she was amazing, and she picked up her confidence sort of after a minute or two of singing and that, like playing and everything. That was really good. So events like that, you notice that the tavern was more
made
lively.
The instrument herself too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. She's a gangster. Like, I know she made a few of the costumes.
Yes, actually, big shout out to Leah for the wise for Durham's costume.
It looked really good. I loved his costume.
And for the Bountifuls as well. Yeah. It was really.
Yeah, the
really
wives I called Piccolo the whole event.
Oh my god!
I'm
now
sure
that you've said
it. What, you haven't heard that?
No.
Oh my god, that's all I could think the whole time. I just kept calling him Piccolo.
I see what you mean now. Like,
So, she was my MVP for the whole event.
Yeah, right. Yep.
She was in character all the time. Even though she was a comedy character, I liked her. And I've said it before, like, I hate comedy characters, but Two Fingers was fucking incredible. Yes. I loved everything he said was funny, and it had a story behind it. So I loved him. I loved Nana. Like, they were easily the two best characters.
Which one was Nana?
Well, I was calling her Nana. I don't know if she was called Nana, but Leah played like the.
Oh yes, yep.
Sorry, arthritis medication and stuff. So
wait, what?
Yeah, she was
like a herb mix.
Because she came up to the Naughty Boys, and she said she wants to kill the leader of the Grimm. And if we can get him to go to death, she'll then jump him afterwards. Okay. And we were just sort of sitting around, we're like, all right, give us 2 copper for that. Yep. And she's like, I'll give you 2 copper and a jam. So we're like, all right, sweet. So we were just sitting there, and we saw, like, the next day, the Grimm leader walks up to death, and we're like, okay, well, we can capitalize on this and act like we sent him to death and get paid for it. So we went up to Nana and we lied, and we said, we've got Grimm at death now if you want to go and jump him. So he's walking back, and he's obviously, I'm assuming, because I never died because everyone healed me. Yeah. But I'm assuming you get some sort of a negative effect when you die.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. Yep. So we just assumed he would be injured. So as he's walking back to his camp, we went and told Nana. She came out and she's like,
the more you die, the harder it is to come back from death.
Oh, okay.
Similar to
That's cool.
the Game of Thrones Red Priest rule. Like,
Yep.
you know, he heals him, but he feels like less of him
like
comes
that.
back each time.
That's
so you are getting closer and closer to death.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now I want to get someone on 6 deaths. That sounds fun. But yeah, she came out and she's like yelling at him because he wasted her arthritis medication or something. So 100%, like, normally that would annoy the crap out of me, comedy characters, but she was so good. She stayed in character the whole time. Even when people were out of character, she was in.
Yeah.
So all the respect to her. She was easily my favourite character.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
I did love the Wise as well. He was really good.
Matters is an excellent role player.
He didn't break character really around me that I noticed. And there was one point where when we were jumping the people with the lanterns, he just drew a big, I think it was a pentagram on the ground with a stick, and people were asking him about it.
Yeah, I think he was drawing a 6 or an 8 pointed star.
Yeah. So people were asking him about it, and his answer was something like, "Oh, to tell you the truth, I was bored." I'm like, that made me laugh. So I can deal with comedy characters
To be fair,
a degree,
like,
but
he was out there for a long time,
Oh,
like
he was.
waiting for the players to turn up.
yeah. And then even when we all got there, it was still ages before we.
Yeah.
I didn't even stay for the whole thing. I bailed to go and bash people in town. But yeah, he was really good as well. So much love to him. Do you have an idea of when the next event will be? Are you sticking to ExoFest once a year and then mini events in between, or
That is currently the plan. We're still working that out. We're only 2 weeks out from the close of the last event, not even a week and a half.
Yeah. Oh, obviously,
yeah.
So
we're still working that out. But I think that was always sort of our plan from when we first did our first ExoFest in 2019. It's just, you know, COVID got in the way, made things a bit irregular, so it's finding a rhythm.
I do want to come back. I do definitely want to do that. I do want to go to Swordcraft, try their stuff out, because I hate Warhammer, and I hate the fact that they're going to make me change my character in some way, but I'm just going to not and just go. So try stop me. But I do want to try that out and see what other people have on offer. But Exodus...
a lot of the players who went to ExoFest that did Swordcraft's Ballarat quest, the Ballarat chapters quest, they said that was apparently amazing.
Yeah, it looked really good. I saw Schmishmer Ranger or whatever his name is on Instagram. He had the slow motion fire twirling.
I didn't see
good
that.
video.
Okay,
Watch that video. Cut back on how much of it you did, because it was like 45 minutes of fire twirling and then a little bit of other stuff.
Okay.
But he's doing really cool things where he's making videos, and I think that's something that Exodus could definitely capitalize on, is having promo videos made. Because you did the one for the Bountiful Wise and all that, so that was interesting, but it was obviously just sort of showing their face. I would love to see if you just get a few people out in the forest somewhere and do like a little video that plays along with the story. And that might be a way to sort of advertise the next event. Like if you had something like that.
We had sort of a plan for that for this event. There was a couple of people who put their hand up to do like a introducing, you know, ExoFest, but it was like an in-character introduction, like greetings traveler type video.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that happened or not, because we said, yep, absolutely, we'd love for you to do it. Did a bit of a script review. I'm not sure if they got to it over the week, but yeah, I'll have to follow that up.
Yeah.
And we did have a photographer and possibly a videographer. The videographer was like, you know, sort of a bit of a maybe. He was busy, but then they were both unable to make it. So so it's all right. Like, we were going to have 2 photographers because Hannah said that she'd run around with Crohn's Chronicles and take some photos during the week for us, which was really good. And we were going to have a dedicated guy, but he wasn't able to make it. Something came up, and then the videographer, he was had some health things come up. So look, it happens. But we'll get there.
Yeah, that'd be good, because I've always come up with the idea to recruit for the White Bulls. I've always wanted to do it, and I've tried to do it by myself, but it's really hard. But have a video where it's first person and you're watching me, and I've kidnapped you, and so have someone with a camera pretty much strapped to their face, and their hands are tied, And the idea
Like,
is...
yeah, like, oh, good, you're finally awake type thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to do something like that, and I feel saying it now, people will probably want to steal the idea, but I'd love to do something like that for Exodus as well. Like if it's coming off a boat sort of thing, or getting off a wagon, that sort of thing, like the Skyrim intro.
Yep.
And sort of have it that your way to sort of introduce the event. So someone, just saying, oh, the wise is here and doing this and that and that. So then that way people can watch that, get an idea of the story. Because I came into the event and I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I had to find everything out myself, which is good. But if I had like a little tutorial intro,
Sure, yeah.
that
And that
would've
was
been...
that was one of the videos that we had planned, that the guys put their hands up to do.
Yeah.
So hopefully
So yeah,
hopefully they found some time to do it. I wasn't going to push them to do it, like, like they don't owe it to us. They just offered it.
Yeah.
So hopefully we've got that, because it was a little it was almost along the lines of like, Aladdin, like, greetings traveler, come closer. Too close,
I love that.
Yeah.
I watched that the other day as well.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Having a 4-year-old. He doesn't even like it.
What?
Bastard. He hates pretty much any movie with a storyline. Like, if it's got numbers involved, he's like fucking all for it. But storylines, doesn't really watch.
Okay.
Doesn't care.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, I like that idea.
You know what you have to do too? It's find time to go overseas.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you could take your boy with you.
I want to do LARPs with him when he's a bit older. Definitely. Like you have Podge friggin' running around with his kid, and then the baby came, and I'm like, oh, that'd be way too much for me. I couldn't handle that.
As some friends of mine, the first time I went to Drakenfest, and it was the first time I met them, they'd taken, like, they were a brother and sister who they'd LARPed together for, like a decade or something, and he'd had a kid, like a year before or something. So there's this like 18-month-old baby. It was so good. Like, he was so good with her. They took her around. She had little costumes and everything.
Yeah, the costumes are awesome.
Yeah,
like I love Podrick running around with his kids, and they had like little outfits on. That was cool.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do that. But then obviously you've seen my camps. Like, living in my camps for a kid would suck.
Like, when you go hardcore real.
Like health hazards, bloody spikes, bones.
Mate of mine he had a big tent. It was probably 4.5 meters long and 3 wide canvas, right? And then inside he had like a big sort of double bed, or 1.5 bed, right? And then a cot for her as well. And so that way, like, if she got up restless or whatever in the night, he could pop her into bed with him, and he had like a little kitchenette and stuff in there. So like, it was like a little house inside a canvas tent. Yeah, it was a lot more comfortable for a kid, even 18 months old.
I had the 4-meter bell tent, but I think most people have seen how moldy that thing got. Because of Mafeking, on the last day of an event a few years back, it rained, and then I packed it, and I never unpacked it and dried it out. So it was basically 96% black mold. Like,
did you manage to save it, or
no? I use it as storage now. Like, so if I go to an event, it looks fucked. It looks awesome, event wise. But if you go in there, you die.
Like the chaotic, evil kind of look. Yep.
So when you're laying inside it, it's like looking at the roof sort of thing. It looks like a galaxy. It's like all dark purples and spots everywhere. It was really bad.
Yeah.
So I slept in that for 11 days once, and I want to do something like get another one of those, so when he comes, he will enjoy it.
Yeah, sure.
With my camps obviously being realism focused, like immersion, I get immersion Nazi all the time. That being my focus for a kid would suck, but I would love to see that more in other camps, because I think I call him Discount Bull, but he was with the Seekers. He had the bull on his logo.
Carl?
I'm not
I
sure.
think Carl's his name.
Yeah, I pretty much
like tall bloke, and he's like
big boy,
broad as a barn. Like he looks like a rugby player.
Yeah. I sort of insult people, and whatever name I give you, that's what you have forever in my head. So Discount Bull. We got into it a little bit about. I said you don't have permission to use the bull logo, and it was a good little back and forth. And he sort of stood his ground, which is good.
Yeah. You see him with the bag of rocks.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
Funny. I love that.
I just happened to be walking through.
Two fingers,
and he's like, "You can have a bag of rocks," and I was like,
so
"What?" And I look over, and it's just like it's got lumps of foam in it.
Yeah,
but, that was hilarious.
And I liked how he caught the sword. He wrapped it around the sword by accident, and they had to stop the fight.
Yeah.
But he had his tent set up looking away from the Seekers. So he was in the Seeker camp, but the back of his tent was in the center.
The door was facing downhill.
Yeah, the door like just facing out. So
good view.
When he comes out, he doesn't have all the unimmersive stuff, and I feel like he's a lot like me. He wants that immersion, for his tent. So I think he was the only one that I really saw. And to be fair, I didn't exactly break into everyone's camps and snoop around, but he was the only one that I saw that had a sort of focus on immersion. That was, I think, one of the big drawbacks for this event for me was every camp was Kmart tents and stuff like that. So that hurt for me. So do you feel like it would be worth putting in a standard in future events?
No, because I think that would only deter people at this. A lot of our players sounds like a sook, and there's a bit of an elitism around this in some corners of Victorian LARP. That that our people, they can afford to adhere to a standard or whatever, but when you actually look at it though, when you look at the makeup of the players of a lot of Victorian LARPs, they're generally lower middle or lower socioeconomic, right? And
uni students and stuff,
or not necessarily uni students. Some of them, or a lot of them now are graduates or postgrads, and they're still only starting at the start of professional careers, or maybe they've had a career change, or maybe they just haven't had a lot of luck. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's also groups of people who are marginalized to a certain extent, different, LGBTQI plus people, who might have difficulty personally, and then that makes it harder for them to maybe seek out employment because, it sounds bad, right? Like I'm a perfectly, but I'm a mostly functioning, het cis white male dude. Some days I just don't feel like applying for a job, right?
Oh yeah.
When you have much more complex issues facing you in life, I can't imagine how many days you probably just can't even bring yourself to get out of bed, and you just need to chill and relax. That sounds sort of anecdotal, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying maybe that's where they're at in life, and that might be one of the things, or maybe someone's just had bad luck in their run of employment, or maybe someone does have a job, they just don't earn too much. And again, maybe they're a student. There's a lot of reasons why someone might be that way, but there's not a lot of real world money kicking around in LARP community, and less so in the Exodus community. So squeezing their attendance, not only with a ticket, like you have to pay to come to this event, but on top of that, you must adhere to a minimum standard, would only upset them, drive them away from the event, and then ultimately hurt Exodus. I would like to see, I would like to see more in-period tent and stuff, but good in-period tents that, don't leak in that, or actually look the part, can be hard to come by at a reasonable price.
Yeah, they're usually 600 plus.
Yeah, and that's
even a smaller one.
That's starting at for a 5 meter bell, and given recent global trends around cost of living. That's the cost of living. That's your basic stuff. Your I wouldn't say frivolous, but your peripheral expenses, like LARP, the things that go into that, the costs of those things are only going to increase. One of our actual merchants in town had that problem in sourcing reasonably priced canvas and weren't able to get their A-frame finished in time. So they shared a bell with with another merchant there. And actually, I thought that stall looked pretty good inside that bell. When I quickly sort of had a look through the door.
Which one was that?
I don't want to name names in case they get embarrassed.
Okay.
Yeah. But
because there was a few good shops.
There was a few good shops. Yeah. Alex looked really good, in his hut, which was sort of a bit of a prototype. All those huts were a bit of a prototype, actually. Yeah. But they actually worked. fairly well, I thought. But
Even if
like,
you
there's
just
some design improvements that still
slap
need to
two
be
of them
made.
together and increase
Yeah, and you have like a
size.
longer and a bigger
Yeah,
one. Yep.
modular.
Yeah, I
like
was
that.
thinking. Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing on the last day. It sort of hit me. I was like, I could just butt these together and it's bigger.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah,
So it
those
might come
sorts of
down
things are
to-
harder to
Yeah.
come by. Tubing has had a very ingenious solution. He already had swag. He just went out and bought, which is waterproof. So he went out and bought like a painter's drop cloth.
Yeah, that's what
And
my
then,
tent
yeah,
was.
and then same concept here, and then just pitched
he just
pitched
had,
it
yeah.
over the tent.
He had
Over
a
the
canvas swag over
And I
the
think
swag. Yeah.
Steve Beattie did the same thing with his tent as well. Like he had a big canvas thing, and he just pitched it over to hide his modern tent. Some people, I think, have gone in on like communal tents, so they buy like a big modern tent that they know is going to be water and windproof. Because that's the other thing too, is canvas is a lot more work than polyester.
Oh yeah, no, mine's not waterproof by any means.
Yeah, and that's a greater cost. Maintenance has a cost attached to it. That's another ongoing thing. So not only is that effort required, which is time, and maybe they're time poor, because this is the thing that this is just a fact. Lower socioeconomic people who work generally are more time poor because they might be working 2 jobs or they work 1 job that demands a lot of their time.
Yeah.
If our players are in that lower socioeconomic bracket for whatever reason, students, social difficulties, personal difficulties, whatever it is, adding those compounding factors will just make it harder. So the best thing we can do is do our best to create an immersive experience that they can go into, and that those in their houses who can help them build an immersive experience within their allotted camp at ExoFest, maybe like they have a high intensity IC area, and then they put their modern tents to the back or something.
Yeah, that's the idea. I thought most.
I think the
warbands
sect.
should follow.
I think the sect did something like that. They had their modern tents slightly off to one side, and then they had all their IC tents grouped together.
Yeah,
and that looked really good.
Yeah, that's what I think everyone sort of needs to focus on.
Did you see the sect's main tent?
No, I didn't.
Wall-to-wall weapons. They had a long table that they all sat around. They had a little fire pit out the front. It looked really good. And then there's just weapons everywhere. It was it was kind of funny. Like it was just walking into, and it's what you expect. Like they're holy paladins of war, and they're just like got wall-to-wall weapons, and you're like, yeah, no, this is so appropriate. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I have the 50-50 rule with the goats when we did Castle Quest.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
And you have all your immersive tents in one section and then unimmersive behind it.
Yep.
Which is, I think, the best way to do it if you can't afford, or your warband's so big that obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff like camp stoves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you can separate immersion and non-immersion, I think that's
one easy way to do it. Yeah.
It'll come down to warbands sort of enforcing their own sort of things rather than EXO doing it. So that's a fair point.
And like, the best way we can do is sort of lead by example. So we're going to keep trying to make the town as immersive as possible. Upgrade the modern elements that we couldn't escape this time from a time or a cost perspective.
I think for the most part it was pretty good.
I
didn't have an issue with the town, to be fair.
And so the things that we can upgrade as we go along, we're going to do our best to upgrade and then expand. So it's slowly because we're still so small, so we have extremely limited budget and everyone's volunteering their time. But everybody brings their friends. Bring your friends. The bigger we get, the more money we have to make a bigger and better town and other smaller events as well.
Well, we do me and T-Bone plan on bringing extra goats. So we're hoping to get lamb and animal, and my brother and his kid.
Yep.
And then obviously,
because I think Nick was going to bring his son, but then something came up.
But Deshaun's a little shithead, so he got booted. So T-Bone came in with that ticket. But we do want to bring in extra people for the next event, because with my camp, I built it for one person, and then I just added in little bits and pieces so my brother and T-Bone could stay. And one of the tents ended up just being a prop, T-Bone didn't even use it.
Nothing wrong with that.
So if we get a few more people doing that, and if you have the idea of us moving into the slums, then I think we're going to bulk up what town looks like, obviously.
Absolutely.
If people saw what I did, obviously that stick wall was sort of a late addition. T-Bone did that, so a lot of people may have missed it, but things like that in town, obviously the stick wall's probably not ideal, but we do plan on building like gates and things for the slums.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, if we can get a bunch of people that actually live in town and have that immersion sort of focus,
which is sort of what,
help.
and that's sort of what Drakenvest and Mythodea do. It's like, you know, you have like a town ticket, which you kind of have to apply for at Drakenfest. So I'm not sure what the process is there. This is for non-merchants. This is for characters in town.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, their whole game is involved in town, and that was more or less what the Naughty Boys were doing. Was like they were to live and bring life to the town.
Okay. Yeah.
Add more than just the key NPCs and the church and death in town. So
if I had known that I was going to end up being with the Naughty Boys, I would have built my camp up there.
Yeah, that's the thing. We didn't know who we were going to recruit. We just had sort of the loose sort of because we didn't know what hits and missions were going to come the way of the gang. So we had a rough idea of the path. You know, do sketchier and sketchier stuff until like, all right, you're not bad, and then they would induct you.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh,
Actually, I think I've got some photos of when you finally did your induction with T-Bone the second time, not the first,
Oh my
not
God.
the first time.
That was funny the first time. Absolute shit show. It was perfect for Two Fingers. Like,
Yeah.
so he had the I think it's a Swedish stove, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the log with the
The
hole
jet
in
stove,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So he had that. He had the thing boiling on top, and they'd already spilt it before I got there. And then he bent over and headbutted it and knocked it off and spilt the rest of it. So there was barely anything in there for this ritual. But yeah, they were really funny and absolutely awesome dudes. Like James, I noticed James to start with because he looks shady as shit. He's
Yeah.
got the tattoos
Yeah,
everywhere,
yeah.
handsome as fuck. So I'm like, okay, this guy, he's perfect. I hang
he
out
was
with him.
such a perfect addition to that.
And then I didn't know Two Fingers was a naughty boy until later because James approached me with, I forgot the other dude's name. He was only there for a short time.
Oh yeah, Godding.
Yeah.
The one that looked like a medieval dock worker.
Yeah, he looks rough as shit. I loved him.
But he's so so lovely.
Yeah, he's a nice dude.
Yeah.
So they approached me first, and I'm like, okay, finally, people that are like my sort of element that I can connect with, because I can't join the Grim because my character assumed they use magic. So I just didn't want to be near them. Like,
Yep.
I'll attack you on sight. So the Naughty Boys coming in, and they were just dirty people. It sounds bad, but
Yeah.
that they were perfect for me. So having that option definitely opened up more doors for me, and that's what T-Bone came into the event. He was rusty, hasn't larped in like 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
To come in and have the option with the Naughty Boys, and his first role play was taking the town.
Yep. Yep.
That woke him up, and he's like, all right, now I've got the juices flowing, I can get into it again. So
yeah.
it was good if you can sort of identify people that will fit that, but also it's the same as with the goats. I get nervous when things get bigger because then people that don't fit the aesthetic, I guess, come into it.
You end up with variations.
Yeah, so the goats, I think, got hurt really bad when I think we hit like 40 plus members.
Right. Yeah,
And
right.
We have a bikey MC sort of style hierarchy. So you've got your patches, your prospects and things like that. And we started bringing in people that were just goofy and friendly, and it just didn't play well with our style.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think the Naughty Boys actually don't have to worry too much about, because the style that they play is kind of funny.
Yeah.
With that dark side to it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that's definitely going to be a big asset for us. EXO is having these sorts of players, also NPC. I'm keen for that. That's probably my most looked forward to part of the next event.
Yeah.
Is there anything about EXO that you want to talk about now? Like, sort of free reign, say anything that you want, anything that you are excited about?
I hope that COVID doesn't screw us with our interstate players. We had a lot of interest from interstate players that got quashed because they didn't know what the rules would be with borders and things. Like if there was another flare up and they locked or made border restrictions tight again, they couldn't. I suppose like even 6 months out, like you can't see the future. So
yeah.
Hopefully things stay calm as far as COVID's concerned. You know, we don't end up with some sort of killer variant.
Seems to be going down, which is good.
And if it stays on that trajectory, when we run our next one, hopefully we state players to come and enjoy what we do.
Well, we've got interstate goats, Canberra, Adelaide. Like we've got a few people that would come to the event. So yeah, that's definitely a bonus. I hope we can get more interstate people. Because I think up north they have a really good orc group.
In Queensland?
I think in Queensland they have really good looking orcs. And that's something that I miss in LARP, like is good orc characters. Like that's what I want to do in Drakenfest. Like if I went to Drakenfest, I would try and
have you seen the orcs. Yeah, have you seen the orc camp?
It's disgustingly good.
Yeah, it's like, really good. You've got to apply to join them though.
I know. Yeah. I hear that. Whether or not I'm correct, they have a sort of criteria, so they want you to be a certain size and things like that.
Depending on what you're applying for, because there's different things within the orc camp you can apply for. Okay. I don't understand it fully either, but
so that's something
I've spoken to some of the orc camp organizers, and they've got certain criteria, but generally, like being a general orc, you can do it, but you've got to have very specific kit standards. I think you have to understand a bit of black speech as well, and the inside of their camp looks amazing.
Oh yeah, I think it was the Irish Will. He's a YouTuber.
I know him.
Yeah,
so he's a really nice guy.
Oh, he seems awesome.
Yeah.
So I think he did a video where they let him in the camp.
Yep.
And he did a quick shot of that
because he's been going for like 10 years or something.
Has he? I thought he only went recently.
No, the first time he went, I think, was like 2013 or 2014, something like that. Yeah. So he's been going for a long, long time.
I thought he.
Yeah, I only met him in 2019, but he's such a cool dude.
I've seen a few of his videos. If you haven't seen the Irish Will, check him out. He's got some really good videos that sort of go in depth on certain, I guess, warbands over there. Because I think they've got the one where if you come from predominantly English-speaking countries.
So yeah, what are they called?
It's something really plain, like easy, like the exhibition or something like that.
Oh no, yeah. So the Grand Expedition doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they folded up. There's another one in Gold Camp, and I can't remember what it's called. Oh god. Anyway, yeah, they get players from all over. They get players from the Middle East. They get players from Spain. I had a couple of players from somewhere in North Africa as well. You know, so like there's like a whole international contingent that joins this mob in Gold Camp. A couple of guys from America in 2019. I can't remember what they're called now. Anyway, but they all speak English, and you know, they help you hire tents. Like they all collectively hire tents to use and stuff, and they've got their own internal role playing stuff too. I'm gonna think of it after. I'll be driving away and I'll think of it. Yeah. I'll be like, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I've seen that sort of thing. So I think that's a really cool feature of like the tourists to come in.
Yeah.
Like obviously, Victorian LARP's not exactly drawing in people from Canada and stuff like that yet because we're not big enough. But even if you get interstate people and they've got no warband to go with, if you have like, I think it was Brown Camp for one of the old...
way back when.
Yeah. That was at Math King. But that seemed to be just like a collection of herds that just got dropped in. Like, enjoy it. Like, everyone lives together. And that's how we became this one big camp. Everyone was just sort of by themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a good option for EXO, is if you were to have this random tourist sort of group and maybe put them at the edge of town and have them as dock workers, things like that.
Yeah, sure, yeah. That could be something. Yeah. Make it easier for interstate players to get in.
Exactly, yeah. And sort of introduce them to the town and everything and make them feel more at home if they've got that option.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we'll probably have to wrap it up because I don't even know how long we've been going.
Oh, probably a while, but yeah, no, that's all
Oh, there we
right.
go. Hour and a half. So editing this is going to be a nightmare. So going forward, I think Exodus currently for me is great for the event. I love the story. The community is great. Obviously, people on Facebook have seen I've had little arguments here and there with certain people. But I think that outside of those little things, like I've had no issues. Everyone's really friendly to the point where they'll heal you when they kill you. And the NPCs and the effort put into the story, 100% is a massive draw for me.
Yeah. I should also say too, actually, I keep leaving this out. Like, but the NPCs helped sort of craft their character a bit. You know, Vari, you know, obviously has done the bulk of the story work, but they helped sort of craft and bring those characters to life a bit themselves. Gerald was a big part of a lot of their interplay mechanics as well. There's a whole lot of people who I will continue to forget to name. Actually, and Gerald a little bit, but also mostly Two Fingers and the Druid before he became Nine Fingers. Did I show you the photos?
No.
I'll show you after this.
Okay.
Helping me build the huts in town and stuff. I owe you guys more than I can say. Everyone I've just named and more.
Two Fingers was big bonus for town. I think
he's a big bonus to Exodus.
He's awesome. The last thing is pretty much how much money have you funneled out of this business, and are you pocketing your? No, I can't wait for the next events.
It's funny. We had to pay for the firewood in cash, and I'd never taken cash out of the business account. And I was messaging our money guy, like our chief financial officer. I'm like, Lewis, am I allowed to do this? Is this okay? Like, can we take? He's like, yes, it's fine. Just you'll have to if you can't get a receipt because it was like paying for it in cash. He's like, you'll just have to sign a thing to say what it was for. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, taking the cash out. Yeah.
I don't even know the last time I had cash. Like my dad gave me $10 the other day, and I'm like,
I said to the guy, I'm like, can I transfer it to you? Because I didn't want to just walk around with like a couple $100 in cash. But anyway,
the firewood, there was plenty of it. I think most people brought their own, which worked out really well for the tavern because they didn't have to stress on finding more firewood.
Yeah, and it meant we had plenty for the last night too, which was funny because it wasn't even that cold.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was a good night actually. I actually laid down by the fire like at the end. I was just
I think last year Gerald slept there after the night of the music, like on the last night. He slept next to the fire.
I couldn't do that in the morning, waking up.
Oh, he pulled his bed in. He pulled his bed in there and slept in there.
That's not bad. So. But well, I don't want to say thank you for coming in. Obviously,
thank you for having me.
It was good fun. There are big things happening. There's more games within the games that I've got planned, and I would like to sort of run you through now off camera. But yeah, Exodus, thank you so much for having me as well. Like, it was good fun. I enjoy building camps, and you gave me freedom to do that. So I'll definitely keep putting in that effort for you guys going forward. But good. Yeah, honestly can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to it as well.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, the politician. Yeah.
Thanks, man.